Grace gives us access to salvation and then sustains us throughout our lives. My second point is this. It is through the grace of God that we come to understand our purpose. And therefore, in response to God's grace, we should be fervent in the pursuit of the purpose that God has called us to. Come here, Paul, and help us once more and again. Paul realized that he was chosen by God to spread the gospel of Jesus Christ. In Galatians 1:15, Paul says these words, "But when God, who set me apart from birth, called me by his grace." Romans 1:5 says these words, "Through him and for his name's sake, we received grace and apostleship to call people from among all of the Gentiles to the obedience that comes from faith." Finally, in 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verses 9 through 10, Paul says these words, "For I am the least of the apostles, who I am not worthy to be called an apostle, because I persecuted the church of God. But by the grace of God, I am what I am. And his grace towards me was not in vain. But I labored more abundantly than they all. Yet not but the grace of God which was with me." Now remember that Paul, before his conversion, was the one that hunted Christians down for sport. He was the one that witnessed the stoning of Stephen. Paul was the one that on his way to Damascus to arrest Christians had a close encounter with the risen Christ. Yet God extended his grace towards him even before Paul was born. And Paul's zeal in his service reflects his appreciation for the grace that God had extended to him. Even in persecution and imprisonment, that did not weaken the fervor with which Paul pursued his God-given purpose. Nothing else mattered to him except the grace of God. That's a lesson for us today, my brothers and sisters. I believe that your level of service to God is in direct proportion to your understanding of the grace that God has extended to you. Now, I know you're sitting here with your wonderful self, but really it's because of God's grace that you do what you do and that you are who you are. It is because of God's grace that you were called to be who you are. It is because of God's grace that you have the gifts and the talents that you have. For if the truth be told, and can I tell the truth in here, there are homeless people that can sing your song better than you. There are prisoners that can out-preach you. There are drug addicts that would serve more diligently. But because of God's grace, he called you. Somebody need to raise a praise right there. It's because of his grace that he called you. Nothing that we have done earned the merit of God, but he extended his grace to us, even when we didn't deserve it. Therefore, your service should reflect your appreciation and your knowledge for the grace that has been extended to you. Give God a praise right there.